All right, hi there fellas, happy weekend. I owe you a video about the 6 types of business models. I was actually trying to repurpose some of my older videos from my consultation, but I was unable to, so I'm making you a fully fresh video. And I'm doing you a nice one, so what I want you to do is watch this video either right now or later when you have access to pen, paper, and write down the pros and cons of every single one of these. I'm going to go through it real quick, about 10-15 minutes. I want you to write down the pros and cons of all of these, and then at the end what I want you to do is I want you to comment below the video which one of these suits your taste the best. Which one, if you had the option today, which one would you go for? And if none of these 6 are something that you think you are going to be able to do, then I want you to write none, that's N-O-N-E, in the comments box below. All right, so let's get started. These are the 6 types of business models broadly that I have assessed. And now I'm no MBA, so if some of you guys went to MBA school and you say, well, they taught us 26 different models instead of 6, then broadly what I tried to do is compress all of those different models into broadly 6 or 7 types. I actually started with 7, but at the end I said, okay, this 6 is probably better because 7 was just 2 of them were just similar. So I'll quickly go through all of these and talk to you about the pros and cons. The 6 business models are manufacturing, distribution, retail, services, aggregators, and then market creators. So let's go through all of these one by one. The first one is manufacturing. Manufacturing is when you input some money, build a little factory or a little store that kind of makes items. You're in the making business, and then you sell it to the customers. Even telecom companies are kind of in there because some of the dynamics of telecom companies are very similar to that of manufacturing, so I bunched them in. I didn't keep a separate section for telecom. Now, what are some of these features? First of all, input capital. Input capital for a manufacturing company is very high. So you got money running into the tens of crores in order to get machinery, in order to get manpower, land for the location, and approvals in order to do manufacturing. Now some people say, well, I had a couple of clients who kind of went through the whole coaching program over 3 weekends. We had these weekend coaching programs, and they said, well, I want to do manufacturing, but I want to do it at a small scale. And we're like, how do you want to do it? Well, I want to make small cloth bags, and this is not very old. I mean, this is like 1 or 2 years back. They said, I want to make cloth bags for supplying to the likes of DMart. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but why would you do that? And they say, well, plastic bags are going out, and they charge for plastic bags, etc., and we want to supply them low cost cloth bags that they don't have to charge the customer for. Typically the store will charge 10-15 rupees for providing a cloth bag up front. And that was interesting, and they said we can make it out of our home, etc., but that won't really work out, because if you have employees, like 4 or 5 people coming into your home and literally stitching cloth bags, you'll never be able to provide it to DMart, etc., at a cheap enough cost. You'll never be able to provide it at $5 a piece or whatever. And the second thing is, why would DMart do business with you? There's hundreds of people who can provide that, right? It's not rocket science. And thirdly, you will never be able to provide a big grocery store with a small home operation. So you have to machinize or mechanize or machinate, or basically at some point you got to automate the whole thing. You got to get machines, you got to get raw material in bulk by the tons, you need those trucks, you need the whole complexity that comes with a manufacturing operation. And at least in India, these things don't work very simply. You need to know people in big retail companies that you can kind of take care of and make sure that your contract remains, because there's a lot of competition, and India is the low cost market for a lot of things for the world, especially services and things like that. So you're trying to go low cost in a low cost market, you basically kill yourself. You may be in the business, but you won't be very big. And I know there's a lot of people who are making small things, and they're depending on Amazon to market for them. And I did a separate video around that. Those people get killed very fast. That's a race to the bottom, because your only source of sales, your only source of revenue is Amazon. And slowly different other people try getting on the platform, and everybody is trying to price beat each other. And this basically a spiral race to the bottom. So I have a separate video on that. I'll probably share that in the group if I find it. I couldn't find it right now. that I did about a year back, and if I find it, I'll share it with you. So broadly, if you're in manufacturing, you have to go big ticket, otherwise you will get killed. So the input capital is usually very high. Operational expenses also high because you got to deal with lots of labor, land, etc. Right? So so you got all those expenses, and then dependencies. How many different external factors does your business depend on? How many different external factors does your business depend on? What all could go wrong outside your business that could affect your business? Dependencies are very high. So first of all, you got labor, lots of labor unions. You got to deal with all those people, and they're very, very unpredictable. The second thing is politics. If you're in big ticket manufacturing, politics could change a lot of things for you. Local politics, state politics, national politics. You have that whole situation that happened in West Bengal where suddenly the government said, we're not going to allow Tata to, or was it Tata or Maruti? I think Tata to make a factory over here, and then Tata had to go all the way down to Gujarat and make a factory over there. So, a lot of local politics will affect you. And the third is trade. A lot of national and international trade is going to affect you. So again, coming back to the Tata example, when international trade was favorable, what Tata did was went ahead and bought Jaguar Land Rover as a company, and that added to their bottom line. Company was doing good, Indicas was selling, and suddenly people got off Indicas, and then the whole Uber market basically stabilized in India, and that was the major source of car sales for Tata Motors, for example. And then suddenly that whole thing flatlined, and now they're running losses. So Tata Motors had a great run from 2011 to 2016-17, and after that they've been running consistent losses. Just look at their balance sheet. So the dependencies are very high. They make great cars. I myself own a Tata vehicle. They make great cars. I totally swear by the cars, but just these external dependencies have been making them go in losses for like forever now, like 3 or 4. I also own a lot of Tata stock. So okay. Now the scalability of this business is relatively low. It's very high in the initial stages when you're setting up the machines, and the machines can belt out. You can keep the machines running for 2 or 3 different shifts. So the scalability is very high initially, but once you hit that maximum peak capacity, there is no scalability. So I think I'll change this and I'll say low to medium. Okay, you want to do a business that has medium or high scalability, because you don't want a flat line. You want to keep increasing. Now, of course, you can keep adding factories, but every single additional factory is going to take you that much of input capital. So scalability is low to medium, and profitability of most manufacturing companies is 15 to 20%. The next one is distribution. You have trucks on the road and you're distributing. You're either collecting forwarding agent or a stockist or a wholesaler, and you basically collecting on behalf of a company and distributing to the various sellers or retailers. Input capital is high because you get all those trucks, etc. Operational expenses also high because vehicle maintenance is not cheap, my friends. It's very high. Vehicles keep breaking down, etc. They require the whole servicing stuff. And then in India, especially, you got the issue of drivers stealing fuel and stuff like that happening. So you got to watch out for that. Dependency is very high because again you're doing a business on the field, so field variables come in. You have trucks going out and suddenly in a different state they say, well, you don't have the right permits, etc. You got to pay us 10,000 rupees, otherwise we will not let your trucks through, and things like that. You got all those items. What if an accident happens? Then there's going to be a huge problem. You're going to rush in the middle of the night all the way over to Karnataka, to take care of it. So field variables are high. Labor, it's a labor-based business. So again, you have all the issues that come with blue-collar labor, dealing with drunk drivers and things like that. And then you have trade dependencies. Again, if trade situations between 2 states fall off, or trade situations between 2 countries fall off, then your business is impacted. The scalability is high because for the exact same input capital cost, you can keep adding trucks and keep adding volume to your business. So scalability is high. Profit is 15 to 30%. You can do it at a big ticket level, which is the DHL Blue Dart level, and then you can do it at a small ticket level, which is small 2 or 3 tempos and operating only in your local area, where you can have people who belong to the same area kind of work for you, and you have a small business, but you can be a supplier to things like DHL or to a big manufacturing company or something. So scalability is high, profit is 15 to 30%. Dependencies are high. All right, next one. Point number 3, retail. Retail, now this includes restaurants as well. So some of the variables I'll talk about apply to actually restaurants and hospitality, because this is footfall based. You have large retail stores, or even your kirana store, which is a small retail item, but you have your food junctions, you have your big bazaars, you have D-marts, and then you have restaurants. All of these are footfall based businesses. So I'm just counting kind of restaurants and entertainment places over here. So you got input capital is obviously very high, because you want your retail business to succeed. You need to have space in a prime ticket area. You want a successful restaurant, it needs to be in a prime ticket area and not in the back of the boonies, because you'll have less footfall and then the prices will also go down. So you need to be in a high ticket area. So the input capital is high because you need the lease or the rent or whatever it is. And then you need to do it up nicely. If you have a retail store, you need to do it up nicely. Refrigeration, all of that you need to put in. So restaurants, retail stores, etc., input capital is very high. Operational expense is also very high, because commercial power, commercial refrigeration, you have people working the place. Even if you have a retail store, you have lots of labor working in there. If you go to a D-Mart, there must be at least like 50 employees in every D-Mart. So operational expense is fairly high. And then you have a little bit of your own logistics, etc. So you have operational expenses high. Dependencies are not very high, but they're high. Again, field variables come in, whether your stock is coming or not, stock is going or not, stock is rotting, right? And then you have labor. Again, blue collar labor is involved a lot. And then you have economy variables. So for example, you have in a down season, a lot of people don't go to restaurants, so you lose money. Restaurants have very few up seasons during the year. There is summer, too much of summer, people don't come in to eat. Too much of rains, people don't come in to eat. Non-festival times, people don't come in to eat. Middle of the month, end of the month, people don't come in to eat because they don't have the savings to spend on eating out, etc. So economic items, there are lots of dependencies over there. Even for retail stores, economy items, if you have slightly high-end retail stores like Food Junction, etc., people don't come in if the economy is not doing well. So I don't know if you've heard about big ticket retail is getting hit big time with takeout stores and Amazon food and things like that. So big ticket retail is getting hit today. These days is not a good time for big ticket retail. Again, D-Mart stock has kind of gone high because because of coronavirus. D-Mart is the only one that's supplying and all of that. But broadly, retail is things are not good for retail for the last 5 years, at least in India. Scalability is high because again, you can add more stock and immediately improve your output levels, and then you can just install a better software where you have self-checkout and things like that, and you can actually increase the traffic that processes through the checkout system. So scalability is pretty high. Again, they also have a cap, but that cap comes in a while away. With restaurants, the cap can come in pretty fast because you can't really, you have people sitting down at a table. The average time to eat a meal is 1 hour, 25 minutes. You cannot really increase that time because people don't come in to have dinner at 5 o'clock in the evening, and they don't come in to have dinner after 11 o'clock. So you got that little time window where people will come in to eat, and you cannot really scale it up. If you want to increase space, then again, input capital just goes high. So scalability is high in the case of a retail store, but low in the case of a restaurant. Profit 15 to 45%. Retail stores make a profit about 15%, and restaurants make about 45%. Any food business makes about 45%. And then retail, big ticket retail is trying to increase their profit margins because they're just trying to just have these big stores where they can cut their costs using economies of scale. So they're trying to improve their profit margins. Broadly, profit margin in retail is like 15-20% max. Services. So you set up a services business where you're providing either professional services or something like that, and the input capital is of course low because all you need is yourself who sells, and then you need one guy. When you get a client contract, you need like a guy to service that contract. So you got businesses like you have call centers, IT companies, B2B marketing. All of these business models come in services. Operational expenses broadly moderate to high. Once you start expanding, you have a big office with 20, 30, 50 employees, then you got to go to a nice IT park and things like that. So operational expense starts off at pretty low. You have salaries and a little bit of office space, but over a period of time, it'll go towards the high side. So I would call it moderate, but when you start scaling, it can go high. Dependencies are medium. All you need to do is basically hiring and training. Dependencies are higher in foreign countries, but they're lower in India because India is loaded with human capital. So all you got to do is figure out to recruit and train, and human capital is relatively cheap if you want. So if you're in a high ticket area like maybe Gurgaon, then obviously manpower cost is high, but in most tier 2 cities you find similar talent at lower prices. Scalability is also moderate. It is virtually unlimited, but then when you start expanding, you realize keeping a team together and managing them so that everybody is belting out the exact same quality of service is not that easy. So that's why scalability of the services business is moderate, and that's why if you look at developed countries, all of their services are getting automated more and more today. In fact, Amazon is one big prime example. They've actually doubled the wage rate for their workers, but they have so many things happening via robots and algorithms. Now they're saying we'll deliver through drones, that actually for the amount of volume that Amazon delivers, the manpower that they employ is very less. So once automation happens, then it'll probably scalability will become very high, but right now only Amazon has achieved it, nobody else. So scalability is like moderate. Profitability 15 to 35%. Alrighty. Aggregators, people like Uber, Airbnb, etc. Input capital is low to moderate because all you got to do is just create the algorithm, and then you need to have personnel go out onto the field and sign up those hotels or sign up those drivers, etc. Operational expenses also moderate. I would call it low, but it's moderate because then in the case of Uber, what they did in India was they went out and tried to get a lot of people who did not have cars of their own. They tried to motivate them to buy cars of their own, and then they had to arrange with banks to arrange for the finance, etc. And it was a big racket because the banks paid the money, Uber arranged for the finance, and then the model is kind of flatlined. So the people who actually bought those cars to become Uber drivers, they are actually losing money and they are unable to pay the EMIs. So anyway, operational expenses low to moderate. Dependencies are medium, which means again they also depend only on recruitment and training. So dependencies are basically medium. I would say low, but then you have cases of drivers getting drunk and creating all kinds of issues. So you have some liability over here. So dependencies are kind of medium. Scalability is very high. You could literally sign up. Uber has become a global company in the last. The first I saw Uber was 2012, 13, 14. So yeah, in the last 6 years, Uber has become like a global trend. Very high scalability. Profit is literally like 3%. Okay, Uber doesn't make any money. They actually lose money. Ola cabs, what is it? Ola or whatever that cabs loses money. Airbnb lost money. When Airbnb went public, there was zero profit company. So I've said 0 to 10%, but literally I haven't seen anyone's balance sheet more than 3% in the last 2 years. I may be wrong, but I just checked some facts recently and they're not a very high profit company. In fact, all of them are literally losing money right now because the thing is they don't own their own services. They're just a connector, and they have a point where customers will not pay high for a hotel room. They're expecting a discount because they're going through ClearTrip or they're going through Airbnb. And they expect a high level of service because they go through Ubers. So you got to keep your prices under control, and you have to pay the guy that is delivering the service very well. Otherwise, they're not going to work for you. So a lot of Uber drivers basically will happily shut off their device and go with you all day. If you say, I'm with you all day, just shut off the device, I'll pay you whatever. Let's have our own, rate setting, and they'll happily do that. So Uber drivers are getting offended because, they get stuck in traffic, etc. They don't get paid very well. So they're like, they want to shut their device and go private. So Uber never makes any money. So it's all a zero profit company. So yeah, that's a good business model. Very easy. You can make an algorithm, but probably never make any money. So that's one option. So aggregators. And then the last one is market creators. Market creators are the kinds who are the last mile that go to the customer. Market creators are the ones who take concept products and services, to the customer. So you have high ticket furniture design, home improvement, home design, high-end architects You have insurance agents, selling life insurance or health insurance or whatever. You got financial advisors. You have affiliate marketers. You have multi-level marketers. You have digital media agencies. You have sales and marketing consultancies. All of these, basically the ones that are able to put that high ticket product in the hand of the customer on a commission. All the DSAs for ICICI Bank and Axis Bank, all the DSAs come under here, right? So these are market creators. These are small agencies, small sales agencies, but what they do is their input capital is very low. Their operational expenses also low, because literally they will have in any agency less than maybe 15 people working over there. Dependencies are low, because their only dependency is how much advertising cost, how much do I have to pay the newspaper to run my ad, how much do I have to pay somebody to run my flyers, how much do I have to pay probably the local politician to put up my banners all over the housing society or something, how much do I have to pay Facebook for my ads. So their only dependency is literally advertising cost. And as long as they can keep their advertising cost under control and their conversions into sales high, their dependencies remain low. However, in many cases, if they're dependent only on Facebook and Facebook ad price per keyword starts going up, they could actually lose money. So yeah. Scalability is very high, because again, it's an advertising based business. So once you get a hold on your market, if you're able to get a hold on your market, then you can potentially scale very high. So you have financial advisors who once gain the trust of their local market, and then they work on references and stuff, and their insurance checks keep coming in and stuff like that, because the local market, the people who are friends and relatives of a person who's had a good experience with you, they will highly recommend you, saying, I got the health insurance from this guy, I had a problem, I went to the hospital, this guy really helped me out, he was always there for me, and then everybody else will go and buy their health insurance from him. So scalability is pretty high if you know what you're doing, if you're smart and you're providing good service. Profitability is extremely high, my friends, 50 to 70%. Digital agencies, insurance salesmen, affiliate marketing, big ticket architects, all of these guys, the profit margin is extremely high, 50 to 70%. So that's where you are. So those are pretty much the 6 business models. Which ones of these did you like the best? Which ones of these do you think would suit you at some point in time? Individual professionals like doctors, lawyers, etc. would probably fall under market creators, because if you start like a private practice or something, then you gotta be there, you gotta spend the time, the number of years over there to gain the confidence of the local market. And once you gain the confidence, you have your own brand name, and the business flows into you. So they would fall under market creators category. So anyway, which ones of these models did you like the best? Do comment below, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye.